So today we're talking about division properties of exponents, and this, let's start with an example. So if we have a problem 4 to the 5th over 4 to the 3rd, let's get right into it. If we were to write that out in expanded notation, okay, we would have 4 times itself 5 times in the numerator and 4 times itself 3 times in the denominator. And if we were to cross off all the common factors, we'd be left with 4 squared in the numerator, or just left with 4 squared. So if we think about that relationship between the 5 and the 3 and the 2, we can come up with the property. It is, if we have this problem, our shortcut for this is to subtract the exponents. So that's equal to 4 squared, which is equal to 16. Okay, so we are just subtracting the 5 and the 3 to get to the 2. Let's write that property out as a rule. So the quotient of powers property . Okay, so if I have a to the m over a to the nth power, I just subtract the exponents. And a cannot be 0 because we couldn't have 0 in the denominator. An additional property in this lesson that we're going to practice is called power of a quotient property. Let me show you what that one looks like, and then this video will just contain some examples of how to apply these. So in this example, I've got two numbers being divided, and the exponent outside the parentheses. It looks a little like the distributive property. I basically just take the numerator and the denominator to that power. So it would be equal to a to the m power over b to the m power. And in this case, b couldn't be 0 because we can't have 0 in the denominator. So let's look at a series of problems applying those different properties. So these actually map to problems from your textbook. So this is example 1a. So starting on the easier side here, if we have 6 to the 5th over 6 to the 4th, then of course we could just subtract the exponents, giving me 6 to the 1st, or 6. It goes without saying we haven't done too many of these videos in class. You can pause me at any point here so that you can write down what I'm doing and catch up. Let's take a look at another problem. Okay, if I have 1 over y to the 5th power times y to the 3rd. I don't like where that. Let's put that like here. So if it were like that, okay. Well, that y to the 3rd is in the numerator when I multiply across, and that y to the 5th is in the denominator. Well, if I apply that quotient of powers property, I didn't want to use the wrong name, I would get y to the 3 minus 5 power, or if I simplify that, to the negative 2 power, but we already know that we always want to get rid of those negative exponents by putting them in the denominator. So that would be equal to 1 over y squared. Once I put that, flip that, or find the reciprocal of y squared, get that down in the denominator, the negative exponent goes away. Okay, let's take a look at another problem. Alright, so now I've got 2x over y squared all to the 4th power. Now I'm going to apply the power of a quotient property, and I'm going to take the numerator and the denominator and bring them both to the 4th power. Okay, so if I move on from there, I've got 2 to the 4th power times x to the 4th power in the numerator, and y to the 8th power, because that's power of a power property that we looked at earlier. And then I could just simplify that. 2 to the 4th power is 16, x to the 4th over y to the 8th. Okay, a couple more problems and then you'll be working on these on your own. Again, don't forget to hit pause once in a while if you need to think about it or catch up. All right, this again from your textbook example 2, problem A. Now we've got just numbers in this one, and that's taken to the second power. So if I apply the power of quotient property, I'm going to take the numerator to the second power and the denominator to the second power. Okay, and then I'm just going to simplify them both. That's 4/9. Okay, how about problem B? -3 over y to the third power. Again, I'm going to apply the power of a quotient property. So I'm going to just put that negative in the numerator. It could be in the numerator or the denominator. I'm going to keep it in the numerator. Take that to the third power and take the y to the third power. And then -3 times -3 is +9 times -3 is -27. So if we have an odd exponent, if we're bringing a negative number to an odd power, if we have a negative number and we're taking it to an odd power, we're going to end up with a negative number. And then y to the third. Let's look at one more. And then I think I might do one longer problem too for you guys. All right, 7/4 to the -3rd power. Again, power of quotient. So I'm going to just take the numerator and the denominator to that power of -3rd. Oh, you know what? But I don't like those negative exponents. If it's in the denominator, it needs to go in the numerator. If it's in the numerator, it needs to go in the denominator, and that will make it positive. So 4 to the -3rd is going to be 4 to the 3rd. 7 to the -3rd will be 7 to the 3rd in the denominator. And then if we just evaluate those powers, 64 over 343. Okay, one other example from the book that's a little bit more complicated. So this is example 3, and I'm just going to do part A from this problem. So, all right, we've got 2x squared y over 3x times 9x y squared over y to the 4th. Now that we've had these other two lessons with negative exponents and multiplicative properties of exponents, you're going to get a lot of problems in tonight's homework that will combine all the properties, and this one does some of that. So there's a lot of different approaches to these problems. There's not just one way to do it. I can look at those fractions. I can either look at simplifying this fraction first, or I can just look at multiplying all the way across and then simplifying. I can look at cross-canceling. I think I'm going to start by, and again, there's not one right way. Our book shows one way. I'm going to start by reducing the fractions. So this first fraction, the number part, can't be reduced. 2 over 3. I see x squared over x. That would be as if there's a 1 there, right? 2 minus 1 is 1. X to the first power, that's going to be right here. And y. And then this one, I just have a 9 in the numerator. There's no x to cancel out over here. Y squared over y to the 4th. Let me just write this over on the side. Using today's new property, that would be y to the -2, or 1 over y squared. So that's going to be down in the denominator. All right, now I'm multiplying fractions, so instead of just multiplying across, I'm going to try to do some cross-canceling if I can. Let me grab another color. I see 3 goes into there once and into there 3 times. And then with this y, that would be y and y squared. That's just going to be 1, and that's going to just be y. And I think now if I multiply across, I'm good to go. So I've got 2 times x times 3 times x in the numerator. That's 6x squared. And in my denominator, what's left? Just a y. Okay? So don't be intimidated by those more complicated problems. Just step by step, you can apply the properties in different orders. It doesn't exactly matter. The book approached that problem in a different way than I did. But don't be intimidated by them. Just apply all the properties that we've learned so far in Chapter 8.